and welcome to Comically Pedantic, where we take a detailed look at the complicated concepts, characters, and history of comic book culture. I'm your host, Eric L. Chase, and joining me again on this episode is the wonderful Corinne Levy.
Hello. That's what I got today. I am both awake and sleep deprived. My cat likes to wake me up way too early.
Yeah, you have a beautiful cat.
I do. His name's Oliver. He is a small pumpkin cinnamon roll who doesn't know how to stop talking.
Yeah, we'll probably hear Oliver throughout the episode, is my guess. Whereas my cats are just like curled up in the corner and sleeping just kind of randomly on the floor, just wherever they've decided to lay down.
That's great. That's what Oliver will do eventually, but he is the type of cat that sees a door, and if the door is closed, he's very upset that it's closed, and then will yell at you until you open the door. And the problem with that is we've created this horrible paradox where I have been training my cat to walk on a leash and a harness because I'm insane. And so every morning he gets about 30 to 45 minutes outside. Like, we walk him around. He can sniff all of the deer crap that he wants. He can eat leaves. I don't care. He's outside. He's doing fine, doing great. We come back in. You play with him for a little bit because I found if you get him to run around profusely, it tires him out a little bit before he remembers that doors exist. But then immediately after that, he will try to go back outside. So he hasn't learned yet that it is one a day. And now he just wants all the doors to be open at all times. So he might scratch at my door and he might yell at me a little bit, but it's okay. Max is on standby taking care of this cat.
So, I mean, I guess I could take a wild stab in the dark, but I should ask, what's your bright spot?
Oh, it's definitely my cat. And also that I'm reading Sandman. But if you don't know, Sandman has so many cat freaking photos. So it's a big cat week in the Corinne universe. We're about it. Yeah, that's what I got.
I'm so happy to see you reading Sandman, just because it's my favorite book. I love it.
It is fun.
I read through the entire series over the course of like maybe a couple of months. Which sounds like a long time, but I was reading it as I was going to bed at night, so I would fall asleep in the middle of an issue.
It's Sandman working his magic.
It was such a good series. I was obsessed with it for so long, and I told you earlier, I have the Complete Death collection. I never ventured too much outside of Sandman after the initial series concluded.
Right.
Like, I went back. Neil Gaiman did a follow-up, like a prequel, and I didn't care. It was fine. I didn't care that much. There's something magical about the original series. I just love it so much.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep rocking and rolling with it. Like I told you earlier, the first half of the first issue had me pissed off. And then I was like, oh, I get it now. Okay, we can roll along with this. And now I've just been merrily rolling down this hill of deep dream stuff.
And
I'm a big fan.
I'm looking forward to hearing your check-ins, because there's stuff that I'm interested to see how you react to, but I also don't want to ask you about it until you get there, so that you can experience it for yourself.
Yeah, because again, I'm very much aside from this podcast, because it's I know that whatever we're going to be talking about, everything is going to be unfolded to me. And that's fine, because I am aware within this space that nothing is safe. But I will let people know outside of this space. Don't freaking spoil my shit that I'm reading, because I will come after you. Because I'm one of those people, I'll read it, and then if it was crazy, I'll go back to Wikipedia and read the plot summary again to just
I do that.
Yeah, I do that all the time, but I will never jump ahead. Like, I don't like to jump ahead. And like, I will look to see how many page numbers a book is, but I have like only created tunnel vision for the page number. I refuse to read the last word, whatever. I'm like, just let it happen. Just let it happen.
I
So that's how I'm
so
gonna be with Sandman.
I've mentioned before that I gave myself the really strange task of reading through all of the X-Men from the beginning. And
Yeah,
this was a lot easier to do uh earlier on because I was so far back in the series that I could pick it. So what I would do is I would read the issues. There's another podcast that goes over the X-Men. I would listen to the episodes that pertained to that particular series of issues that I would read, and I would also go to, after reading the issues, I would um go to, there's a website called the Real Gentleman of Leisure, and they did X-Men reviews. I would read their reviews of each issue to sort of
that's fun.
refresh myself on what's going on, and also it's like, what did I miss while I was going
Mhm.
through it? So I went, like, for any individual issue of the comic book that I read, I went over the plot like 3 times.
Right.
I just to like make sure that I kind of under, like, I was picking up everything. Sometimes there was stuff that I picked up on that I couldn't find anywhere else, and like that's its own issue. But like now I'm at a point where I'm ahead of the Real Gentleman of Leisure and where they're doing their reviews. So I can't go to them anymore. I have to like just look it up on Wikipedia or something and see if there's anything on there. But that's one of the things, one of the reasons why, especially even on this show, I like to do older stuff.
Yeah, because it gives people the chance.
Well, not just that. I think there's, so if like someone recently, I forget who, it might have been Austin, mentioned that when there's an opportunity for us to do, what's new in comics, like a comic news podcast.
Yeah,
And I don't really want to do that because there's there's so much more context to things that are in the past, things that have come out. We know all that we can, or as much as we can, about that now, that we wouldn't have had the context for when it came out. So if we're
right.
talking about like a brand new comic book now, I can say like, oh, this is what was said, this is, blah 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 blah. But like say for this Dr. Hurt story that we're going through, I can find Grant Morrison's interviews well after it came out and why they chose to do these things that would not have been available had we been going over Dr. Hurt as these books were being put out.
Right. Do you think that, like, I can see, I can understand that from like a general comic news point of view. But let's say like you finally catch up with X-Men.
Mhm.
Like, do you think that's the thing that you would be able to do? Because it's like you do at that point know all the context and the people who are working on X-Men and stuff like that. So if news came out about that,
I could
then you
definitely
have all this other context that could be like, oh, I can see why they're releasing this right now because they've been doing like this theme that plays with like these past like plots and like blah blah blah.
I could definitely do at least part of that.
Okay.
And it's mostly because um I I want to be able to give context to people. So I could definitely be like, oh, hey, they announced the return of this particular character, someone we've not seen in many generations.
Right.
And I could probably cover that because like I've already read 40, 50 years worth of X-Men. That,
Sure.
that I have that in the back of my mind. And that's a lot easier to do, but there's still going to be missing context from that. Like I could give my thoughts on it and there would be more info as it comes out, you know?
Yeah.
But to have like a full understanding of things, like time is definitely a a good thing to have between an event and when you decide to analyze that event.
Yeah.
I tend to really like having at least a little bit of uh, a breath away from when something is coming out to talking about it, because there's so much speculation when it's brand new. You know, you
Right.
don't have everything in front of you. There, I mean, even just, I mean, take the MCU for example. They announced all of these new movies and these TV shows, and it's very clear. Like, to me, they were building towards the Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty. That makes sense to me. To a lot
Yeah.
of people, they were saying, "Oh, I don't understand. You know, it feels like we're rudderless. We're not going anywhere." I can see that context because I kind of understand where we're going with things. But at the same time, I'm not going to, like, if I were to do a podcast all about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, as soon as that came out, I could tell you everything that happened in the movie. I'm not going to be able to show you like this is how it directly connects, because there are things that they'll pick up on
Yeah, because all
later.
the other stuff hasn't been released yet.
Right.
I guess that's fair.
I can see the little tendrils here and there, but not all of them. um,
Valid.
but that kind of brings us back to what we're talking about with Batman and Dr. Hurt. Dr. Hurt was introduced in like 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. So there's been
Mhm.
enough time where, and strangely, only used a handful of times outside of this particular run in the comics.
Right.
And I kind of love that, because there's something, you've told your story here. There's not much more you need to tell with Dr. Hurt. Um, I just really like the character, so I kind of want to see more of him. But if you don't
Yeah.
have an interesting story, I understand not using them.
Yeah.
um,
It's like one of those, like, just fine wines where it's like, I really like it, but I'm just gonna use it when I have the right dish to go with it.
absolutely. I don't
Yeah.
understand using a character like, obviously, like, everyone loves, like, say, Darth Vader or something. But if you throw Darth
Well, it's
Vader in
like
everything for
everybody
no
loves
reason,
the Joker, but if you
yeah,
throw the Joker and everything, then you're like, "Man, this is just a table wine now." And I mean, table wine
nothing.
can be great, but sometimes I don't wanna get tired of my table wine.
So last time we were here, we discussed Batman R.I.P. and Final Crisis, which ended with Bruce stuck on prehistoric Earth, Nightwing as the new Batman, Dr. Hurt missing, and still no real explanation for who Hurt is or why he hates Batman outside of his desire to corrupt the good in people.
Yeah,
Moving
it's like, don't
forward,
we think he's like the devil or something? We think he's the
well,
devil, or
that
like he thinks he's Thomas Wayne, but he's probably not, or
there's
he's just
so much going on. There's
terrible psychiatrist.
possibly Bruce's dad, possibly just a crazy psychiatrist, possibly the devil, and th- no one knows. There's just, I mean, you can probably rule out a couple of those, but there's enough evidence here and there that doesn't quite line up with any one answer.
Yeah, I think by the end of this episode, we have to have our own firm opinions on this, no
Oh,
matter how extreme they are. So,
we're
like,
gonna
you
have
can deliver me all the clues,
a.
and then I'm just gonna come up with my own opinion that will probably be wrong, and I'm not gonna change it.
I mean, feel free once we get to any of the reveals here, just chime in with what you think.
Yep, I'm gonna put points everywhere.
Perfect.
So, like, currently we've got bad psychiatrist, Thomas Wayne, or devil. Okay, those are my 3 options right now. If
Mhm.
I add a 4th one, I'll let you know,
Got it.
but I'll be adding points.
So moving forward, Grant Morrison will answer these questions pretty much definitively, but they do so in possibly the most comic booky fashion possible. They run 2 comics side by side, each with their own story, but collectively telling a full narrative. For modern comic book readers, that's very similar to House of X, Powers of 10. Um, you have 2 very different comic books telling 2 very different stories, but they actually work together to tell one big narrative.
Okay.
These 2 comics are Batman, The Return of Bruce Wayne, and a fully new series titled Batman and Robin. These comics would make up Morrison's second big arc on the Batman titles and flow directly into the third arc, which we will not be covering since it really doesn't have much to do with actually has nothing to do with Dr. Hurt. But it's still a wonderful read and has some amazing art. The reason we won't be covering those comics, other than the fact that they don't really have anything to do with Dr. Hurt, is they're their own thing. So there's no point in adding any sort of context to this because it has literally nothing to do. Like, it's all about spies and conspiracy and just fun superhero-y stuff, which is very far removed from like the dark murder
and those
mysteries.
are fun. Yeah, but that is not what we are here for today.
Right.
That's for tomorrow. We don't record a podcast.
I do highly recommend continuing on with Morrison's run after what we cover in today's episode. So if you do have the opportunity to do so, absolutely do so. With that said, let's dig into the modern day Gotham's Batman and Robin series to see what's been happening since Bruce left.
Woo!
Batman and Robin is a series that is told in 3-issue story arcs. The first arc is Batman Reborn, followed by Revenge of the Red Hood, followed by Blackest Night, followed by Batman versus Robin, followed by Batman and Robin Must Die, and concluding with a single issue titled Black Mass. Now, not every element from every issue is super important, so we're going to stick to a quick summary for many of these stories, and once we get to Batman and Robin Must Die, I'll take a break to fill you in on everything that was happening in its sister book, because that's where these series start to overlap. So we're going to start with Batman Reborn.
Okay.
We have the new Batman, Dick Grayson, formerly known as Nightwing and the original Robin. He has chosen his own Robin in Damian Wayne. Dick hopes to curb some of Damian's more bloodthirsty behavior, and Damian wants to live up to the ideals set by his father. The two represent a reversal of the usual status quo. Batman is a smiling, positive figure, and Robin is the angsty, violent sidekick.
I kind of love that, though. Because I'm picturing, like, so all the costumes are the same. Like,
they're pretty similar. Robin's is a little different.
I wish it was more campy. Because it's like you're putting your miserable it's like you're putting your miserable dog in like a hot dog costume. I would have loved that. It's
kind of, I mean, Damian's Robin's costume is really similar to the rest of them. It's just, it's got its own flair to it. And so they go further with this much later on, like much later on, when Superman's son is introduced and Damian and Jonathan become friends. So then you have like this super violent Robin and like Superboy, later Superman, teaming up and going on adventures, and it's one of the best. I love every issue that they're in together. Yeah, it's so good. So the two team up to take down a villain named Mr. Toad, and they deliver him to the police. I don't really know what Mr. Toad's deal is, other than he looks like Mr. Toad. He's got like,
he just looks like a toad.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why. He's just like running around the city, looking like an amphibian.
So, okay, here's the follow-up question about Mr. Toad: is he like Toad, as in just like a real life-looking Toad, or is he like Toad from Frog and Toad, where he just also looks kind of dapper?
Kind of dapper. He is.
Oh, that's so cool.
He is absolutely a reference to Frog and Toad.
Wait, I love that.
Like, he looks just like that character, but more human. You know?
That's great. Yeah. I actually love that. They should actually promote him instead of imprison him, because that's delightful. And I'm going to be adding now a point to Devil, because just the fact that there is a person in the universe that looks like Toad from a classic children's novel, I think that anything could be possible, including the Devil. So that's what we're going for. We've got point.
All right, point for Devil.
Point for Devil. I'm actually keeping notes on it.
Love it.
Yeah, it's happening. I'll send you a photo of it when I'm done.
After months of no response to the bat signal, Commissioner Gordon had almost given up, but was surprised to see Batman this time. Gotham City's police department is then attacked by the Circus of Strange, a group of villains that celebrates their abnormalities. And when a thug that was helping Mr. Toad tries to skip town, he is cornered by a man named Professor Pig, who wears a pig's mask. He attaches a doll's mask to his face, which somehow brainwashes the recipient into being a slave. He does all of this while making the man's daughter watch. So he holds this guy down, throws a doll mask on him, and basically turns him into a slave that has to work for him.
So he's putting the doll mask on other people.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, there was a brief moment where I thought he had the pig mask and then was putting a secondary mask on, which honestly would have given me a point for shrink, because that seems like a person that's very insecure with their face and they need to work on that. So we're going to give a point to the shrink, because it also seems like Mr. Pigman has some problems he's working on with control.
Professor Pig definitely has some problems. He's one of my favorite characters that they've introduced from this run as well.
He honestly sounds fascinating. Like, he sounds like he would be a villain in, like, a James Patterson novel.
I don't know that I've ever read a James Patterson novel, but I'll take your word for that.
You should. They're fascinating. I love them. read Women's Murder Club. You'll have a lovely time.
Oh, I like the name.
Yeah, it's great. It's this woman, she's a detective. Her friend is she's like the ME of the San Francisco. They're all in San Francisco. And then they become friends with a reporter, and she's like a badass reporter who's doing a killer job. And then the three of them become friends with this female DA, and the four of them together, they go to the bar and like drink margaritas and they solve a crime together. And
that's
it's
wonderful.
So good. Because everybody else in the San Francisco police department is shit. So it's up to Lindsay and her three gangs sipping margs and solving murders. And I love it. There's like 25 of them.
We just recently wrapped up Only Murders in the Building season 2. And I don't know if
watch that.
It's so good. It's so good. Selena Gomez and
it's the Martins. It's Steve Martin and Martin Short.
Yes, Steve Martin and Martin Short.
The iconic duo.
So funny and so weird. I highly recommend watching it. We finished the last episode of season 2 last night, and I absolutely loved it. It was so good.
Wait, hold on. Before we continue, because I looked up Professor Pig. The first image that comes up is a man. He's wearing the pig mask, and his back is to you, but he's turning over. And they drew him just so his butt's sticking out a little bit. Like, he's just like, oops, you caught me. And I love that. And for that, I'm going to give a point to Thomas Wayne. Now you may continue.
I love how arbitrary this is.
Welcome to dragging me into your podcast world. This is what this is now.
During the fight at the police station, Robin disobeys Batman's orders, and several people die because of it. One of those people is Mr. Toad himself, who is found holding a domino piece in his hand. Aww. Batman determines Mr. Toad was dealing in mind control drugs. Robin, then refusing to acknowledge Dick's authority as Batman, leaves to fight crime on his own and is captured by Professor Pig, who plans to turn him into a Dollatron, which is the name for the slaves with the doll masks.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a fun name. Good on them.
After interrogating one of the villains by literally dragging them through the streets, Batman learns that Pig uses an airborne narcotic that spreads addiction like a virus and plans to spread it across Gotham. Damian breaks free of his restraints, and it is revealed that Sasha, the little girl that had to watch her father be turned into a Dollatron, was also transformed, but she was able to keep her personality. Some weird quirk made it so that even though she had the
magic of childhood, I don't know.
Yeah. She helps Robin fight through the bad guys and stop the virus being spread. Batman arrives to help Damian, reminding him that they are partners. Sasha disappears into the chaos, and Batman finds a domino next to the antidote, implying that someone unrelated to these events killed Mr. Toad.
Oh, also, now that I'm thinking about it, Sasha probably was fine because, like, you know how, like, some drugs are, like, placebo effects.
Mm-hmm.
If she, like, saw it happen, maybe she, like, willed it not.
I
She's
don't
like,
know that they
"It's like
ever
Advil doesn't
actually.
bother me. Leave me be."
I don't know that they ever actually like explain it.
That's my
Um,
theory.
but she's an interesting character. She'll continue for a little bit after this.
Yeah. Having drugs not work on people, though, I'm gonna give that to Shitty Shrink, because I'm sure it takes a lot of people to figure out what medication they need to feel better. So, moving on.
At the end, we see Batman and Robin have found Le Bossu, and we see the full events from the beginning of Batman R.I.P. play out, where it is revealed that it was Dick and Damian claiming Batman and Robin will never die. So if you remember back in Batman R.I.P., right at the
Yeah.
beginning, the red light shines in and they yell, Batman and Robin will never die. We now get the full context to that, and it is Dick and Damian, not Bruce and Tim. So
Oh, okay.
Sasha, the Dollatron, mercy kills her father before the Red Hood arrives and recruits her to his cause. Now, do you know who the Red Hood is?
He was once played by Jensen Ackles.
Yes, actually.
I don't know anything else. I don't know who he is. I know he's got a red face, kind of like Deadpool. I don't know where he came from. I don't know what he does. I don't even know what he freaking smells like. I just know that at one point, somewhere between 2000 and now, Jensen Ackles had something to do with it. And that's all I know.
So, the Red Hood was originally one of the many supposed origins for the Joker. The Red Hood
Okay.
was a a persona taken on by the person who would become the Joker.
Oh, wait. Is he a part of the Killing Joke origin?
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my god. I knew who Red Hood was this whole time. Oh, that's
But
such a kicker.
now this is going to be a little different. So the Red
Right.
Hood appears, and we quickly learn that this is the second Robin, Jason Todd, who died at the hands of the Joker and was then resurrected later on. So
Okay.
now he's back from the dead. This would be the Jensen Ackles version.
So now literally all four Robins are existing in this universe.
Yes, they're all like, I mean, they all existed, but they're all now part of this one story.
But they're all like present and alive at the. Well, I don't know about Tim anymore. I think Tim's dead, right?
No, Tim's alive. We'll talk more
We
about
just
Tim
don't know where Tim is.
a little later on because Tim's off doing Tim's own thing right now.
Timmy's like fallen down a well and Lassie is. Okay. Timmy's on vacation, but all three of them currently exist at the present time. I feel like that never happens. I like never see them all in the same room.
It happens. It's just that they usually have a very different things going on. So like Nightwing
Right.
is usually off in Bloodhaven doing stuff.
Because that's usually Damien.
Damien now more often if you see a Robin it's just Damien. And right now the only person who is technically Robin is Damien. So
Okay.
Jason died and came back and is now the Red Hood. But in the past was Robin.
Yeah.
Nightwing was Robin, is now Nightwing. And well, is actually now Batman in this comic.
Okay.
And
So Dick, who's usually Nightwing,
mm,
was Robin at one point, but currently is spotting for Batman,
right.
who is in the land for time right now.
Yeah. So here's we'll go through a real quick speed run of Robin. So
Okay, I'm so sorry.
no, you're fine. Batman brings in Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson becomes Robin.
Yes.
As Robin gets older, he decides that he needs a little bit more of his own thing going on, so he becomes Nightwing and goes off and does his own thing. He's his own superhero.
Okay.
Batman brings in Jason Todd. Jason Todd gets the shit beat out of him by the Joker and then dies. There's like explosions and all kinds of crazy stuff, but Jason dies. Later, Jason is brought back from the dead, and then he takes on the persona of the Red Hood. Tim was the Robin after that. Once Bruce, quote unquote, died, Tim took on the mantle of Red Robin. And we'll figure out, like, he's off doing something else. We'll talk about him in a little bit.
Sure.
Just to keep the timeline a little bit straight here. And then now
Okay.
we have Damian, who was just crazy and is now Robin. And that's sort of where we are. They're all kind of doing their own thing, but they're all coming into this one story.
Okay. I think I've got it now.
Yeah.
I also, on the second page, I wrote all of that down. So now I can't get confused. And I did write Robin 4 different incorrect ways. So
nice.
Commence. They're
So,
all in the same room now, except for Tim. He's fucked off.
Yeah.
Great.
So Red Hood has decided that Batman's philosophy has been flawed. And he now comes back and he's basically like the Punisher. He kills criminals. That's his whole thing.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite versions of the character. They later try to bring him to be a little bit more of an anti-hero, less villainous. And I think it makes more sense for him to be a direct foe to Batman.
Okay.
I like that version. Anyway, Red Hood and Sasha, who is now known as Scarlet, so she's the Dollatron, become the villainous counterparts to Batman and Robin. So you have Batman and Robin, now you have Red Hood and Scarlet. During a fight with a villain and Red Hood, Damian is paralyzed. Red Hood is then captured, but before he's taken away, he asks why Talia never tried resurrecting Bruce through her Lazarus pit. After all, if they have the chance of possibly bringing him back from the dead, why wouldn't they do that if they could? And Batman, meaning Dick, has no answer, but allows Talia to take Damian so that they can heal his body using harvested organs. So, Damian gets paralyzed, and Red Hood, who once was dead and partially was resurrected through a Lazarus pit, is like, hey, why not bring back Bruce this way? Why are you guys just like letting him be dead? This is crazy.
And Dick's just like, I don't know.
And
leave
so
me alone.
Talia, now knowing that Damian is paralyzed, comes to pick him up because they have like clones of him. So they're gonna like harvest organs from the clones and like
she's just like, I love my son so much. I want to have every copy of him.
She's insane. I love her.
She's a very dedicated mother.
So all of that
is
happens.
The most positive way I can say that.
Yes. All of that happens, and then elsewhere, a masked figure named Oberon Sexton receives a phone call from someone claiming that they have unfinished business in Gotham. Now, this won't be followed up on for several issues, but it's extremely relevant later, as it will be revealed.
It's going to be Batman.
Actually, the person on the phone is Dr. Hurt.
Oh, that makes sense. I have no points to give out for that one.
And the interesting part to know is that it will be revealed that Dr. Hurt is on the phone, but we never throughout any of this have any indication. You kind of get the idea that it's Dr. Hurt or Batman on the phone. I'm just going to tell you right now it's Dr. Hurt, but you never know in this series of panels who Oberon Sexton really it's just a person named Oberon Sexton and they're wearing a mask. Like a full mask, like their entire face is covered.
Well, I'm going to give that point for the devil then, because I feel like that is a reference to the number 6. And that's all I got.
So, Dick then goes into the Batcave and he visits a sealed room that only opens with the phrase Zur and R. And it's revealed that he had taken Bruce's body and moved it to this sealed room.
Okay.
So that's how we end Revenge of the Red Hood. Now we're going to move into Blackest Night. Do you know the Blackest Night, where that phrase comes from?
I don't think so.
In
if it's from
books,
another,
anyway.
No, then because I was thinking some sort of old rhyme. But
well, it comes from the Green Lantern rhyme. in the comic book. So there's the In Brightest Day and Blackest Night.
Oh, yes. Okay. I was
And,
thinking of something like that, and I thought it was a mystery crime, but it's not. Okay, cool.
and in the Blackest Night storyline in the comics, there are these Black Lantern rings that bring people back from the dead. And this is like kind of a tie-in to that, where it's like someone dead comes to life. We're gonna get
Okay.
into it, but it's not actually related to the Blackest Night storyline. It's just called Blackest Night.
Okay.
Dick, while teamed up with the Squire, follows a series of clues to an abandoned mine in England that contains a Lazarus pit. While there, they find a group of cultists ready to sacrifice Batwoman.
Oh no!
Their prophecy claims that this night would be the time the Night of the Beast would rise. And night with a K. When Dick rescues Batwoman, she tries to dissuade them from resurrecting Bruce, but it is revealed that the Knight already put his body in the pit and a crazed Batman climbs to attack them. He escapes and the mine collapses. The crazed Batman steals Dick's plane and flies to find Damian, who had just been handed over to Alfred. So we have this resurrected Batman running crazy.
Okay, so Talia's done with Damian and all of his organic copies. So drops him back off at Alfred Daycare, who, by the way, still thinks should have his own comic series, but that's just my opinion. Is this actual Batman?
We're gonna get into it. It's the body. It's the body that they had.
It's the body that they had, but it's not the soul. That's what we're getting to. I have a feeling. Okay, cool. Well, judging by the fact that they used a Lazarus pit, we're gonna give a point to the devil and a point to Tom Swain because he had that. I feel like he's got some weird techno stuff in his past. So
a quick
he's
flashback,
on the board now.
A quick flashback reveals that during Final Crisis, Darkseid had ordered his minions to keep one of the Batman clones. Now, if you remember, between Batman RAP and Final Crisis, there was a story where Batman was they were trying to clone Batman by using his memories to fuel.
Yeah, there was like 3 of them.
Well, no, this is different than that one. This is
oh no!
See, there's so many Batmans here.
I'm being quizzed.
Between Batman RIP and Final Crisis, there was a very quick short story where he was kidnapped by Darkseid and they were trying to go through his memories to implant them into clones so they could create a Batman army. But because Batman is so great and his trauma is so powerful, they all killed themselves because they couldn't handle what he had
I
gone
remember.
through. There we go.
Okay.
So during that, Darkseid had ordered his minions to keep one of those clones. And this is the body that Superman found at the end of the big crossover event and the major piece of evidence that Bruce was dead. Everyone thought Bruce was dead because they found his body, but it's not him, it's the clone.
Oh.
And that's what was resurrected in the Lazarus pit. So Damian quickly learns that this crazed Batman has to be a copy because the madness from resurrection should have worn off by this point. Damian tries to fend off Batman, but is still recovering from his surgery. He is defeated and thrown from the top of the building, but is rescued by Dick at the last moment.
Can we also take a moment?
Yes.
That they've essentially said, no. The trauma of dying and coming back to life would take less time to recover than the trauma that the original Batman has been through, who never actually died himself. Like,
this is around the time Grant Morrison was building up Batman as the Bat God. There is no greater living person than
I'm truly
Batman.
gathering that. The vibes of that are potent.
It's so good, though.
That is the funniest. Like, no. Like, he died and came back to life, and give him a little sippy of water, and he'll be good in no time. Oh no, it's the real Bruce Wayne.
Dick and Batwoman defeat the Batman copy, who dies from having unstable biology. Dick then puts all of the pieces together and determines that if the body they had wasn't Bruce's, then he is probably still alive and that they have to find him. So that brings us to Batman versus Robin.
Okay.
The Justice League informs Batman that Bruce may have been sent back in time. See, Red Robin, Tim, decides that Bruce would be leaving clues in the past, then so they decide to keep an eye open for anything that might hint at his survival.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Batman, meaning Dick, meets Oberon Sexton, the masked man who received a phone call from Dr. Hurt. He has been hunting down the Domino Killer, a man who has murdered many of the richest men and women in the world and leaves them with a domino as his calling card. And if you remember
Sure.
from the very first one,
Toad had
the
one.
very first story, they had the dominoes. Each murder is quirky, like a Russian general fed to an alligator with a domino pattern painted on its back, or a cardinal being choked with a dog collar. Oberon is convinced that the next victim would be Bruce Wayne, who has been missing from the public eye for a few months. Oberon believes that Bruce is part of the Black Glove, since all of the murder victims so far had been part of that group as well.
Right.
Which would explain why they're all rich men and women throughout the world. They're all Black Glove members. So, back at Wayne Manor, Alfred found that all of the portraits of the Wayne patriarchs were hung in the wrong order. He puts them together, and an empty space is left for the devil-worshipping ancestor to Bruce, the original Thomas Wayne. So, way back in the past, there was a Thomas Wayne that is not Bruce's dad, and that Thomas Wayne was a devil worshiper.
Okay, well, I'm still going to give a point to Thomas Wayne because I'm sure that shit passed down somehow. And he could have just, flung his ghost into some sort of pit. And we'll also give a point to the devil because I drew cute little horns next to its name. And I guess this theme just fits it the best also. But I didn't like that.
Batman finds that one painting has its figure staring at a constellation in another painting, which has its main figure in the library. So they decide to go to the library to investigate. Meanwhile, Dr. Hurt calls Oberon Sexton again to inform him that since he hasn't taken his offer, he will be murdered and sends an elite hit squad after him. In the library, they find a series of roses carved over the fireplace in the same position as the constellation. So Batman's just like hunting shit down from paintings across Wayne Manor. It's one of the weirdest fucking things.
And this is Dick Batman.
Yes, yeah. We have not. Bruce will not be spoken of for a bit.
Okay, great. We're gonna give a point to Shrinky Dink for it's. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of puzzles, and puzzles are for the brain. So it's pretty even, right?
So while hunting down all of these clues throughout Wayne Manor, Dick opens up a secret passageway. And while investigating, Robin picks up a sword and tries to murder Batman. Batman is caught in a trapdoor, and Damian misses. So he swings the sword at him, just misses Batman as he falls into a trapdoor.
Okay, so Damian Robin just took a swing at Dick Batman, trying to kill him.
Yes.
Okay. And Dick Batman fell down secret door.
Right.
Okay.
So Damian, upon realizing what he had just done and that it was against his will, realized that his mother had done something to him while he was under her control.
Oh. His mom probably put some weird brain part in him.
He runs away. He's just he takes off because he's like, I can't be around here because I'm a danger to Batman.
Yeah.
Batman then finds a room with a giant bat painted on the floor and the words Barbados and Thomas scrawled all along the walls.
Tommy Bahama.
when Damian finally exits the secret passageway to find himself in the estate's cemetery, he quickly gets pulled aside by Oberon Sexton, who reveals that the hit squad that Dr. Hurt sent after him are nearby. So Damian tries to get away from Batman, gets caught by Oberon Sexton, and there's a league of assassins in the cemetery trying to kill him.
Oh my gosh. Can't get a break.
In that secret room, Batman learns that the graffiti on the wall is less than a year old, even though Thomas Wayne was born over 300 years prior. He finds a tunnel that goes under the cemetery, recognizing places from the portraits, and stumbles onto a giant statue of a man/bat god known as Barbados. Damian and Oberon fight their way through their attackers while it is revealed that Talia implanted a neural link into his body so that they can control him remotely. That's why Damian attacked Batman.
Weird brain thing.
Right.
I should write this stuff. Someone should just make me a Mad Lib.
Before he can do anything about any of this, Damian also reveals that something's off about Oberon. Oberon is supposed to be an English writer, but Damian recognizes that his accent is fake. Robin's body is taken over by his mother, and he knocks Oberon out. Just then, Dick, Batman, emerges in the cemetery carrying a wooden box and is attacked by Damian. So I know there's like a lot of moving parts here, but I promise it's all important.
So Dick Robin, controlled by his controlling mom.
Damian Robin. Or Damian the Dick Robin.
Damian, Mama's boy Robin, just knocked out Oberon, who I'm going to try not to confuse with the name from Game of Thrones. Just knocked him out after realizing.
I get Midsummer Night's Dream stuck in my head every time because there's Lord Oberon.
Oh yeah, I think Oberon. Sexton just got knocked out, and he probably has a fake accent. Dick Batman comes in again, not knowing that his partner, Robin Damian, is being controlled by his mom at the moment. Just gets attacked by him. I understand what's happening. Thank God I wrote a chart. We're doing good, though. Let's move.
It is important to note that when he emerges from the secret passageway, Dick is carrying a wooden box.
Yes, Dick Batman has... I hate the phrase Dick Batman.
Dick Batman.
It's so stupid. Instead of a grappling hook, it just shoots out like a dildo or something.
I'm sure that's a thing.
I'm sure it is. Reddit's probably full of it. I don't know.
If you've never been to the website, Super Dickery, I highly recommend it.
I haven't. I've never heard about it.
Superdickery.com. It's full of like especially old comics with like Superman kind of being a dick, but then there's also special sections for like Wonder Woman in bondage, Batman subtly being hinted at being gay. It's all like things taken out of context, but they're very funny.
Gotcha. That's funny. Superman is the dick. That's funny.
As more crooks show up to try to kill Batman and Robin, Batman figures out what has happened to Damian, and he shocks his nervous system to free him from Talia's control. And in the confusion, the bad guys find the box that Batman brought from the tunnel, which has a small bat painted on the top, and they decide that they found the box of Barbados and can leave. Afterward, Dick recounts how he had a vision of a giant bat while in the tunnels, but it quickly disappeared. So while he was down there, a giant bat appeared, and then it was just gone. And it was like it never happened.
Right.
Alfred lets them know that if all of the tunnels, the cemetery, and gardens are connected on a map, they form a giant bat symbol. So if you look at the Wayne property and you actually lay out the tunnels, the cemetery, the manor, it makes a bat symbol.
That's goofy.
It's kind of fun.
That's so goofy. What kind of security is this? That's like making your password 1234. Like, oh, Batman, I wonder what his password is. Bat.
So
Bat 1234.
Dick believes that this giant bat symbol, that if you connect all the parts of the property together, he
Yeah.
believes that that is part of Bruce's bat signal across time. So somehow he was able to make it so that
Um,
this built that so that they have some evidence that he's alive.
oh, okay.
When Batman and Robin investigate the tunnels more, they find an old and tattered Batman cape and cowl hung on the wall. Dick tells them to alert the Justice League because he has to confront Sexton. So Batman visits Sexton's hotel and reveals that all of the Dominoes killer's deaths had something in common. They were all members of the Black Glove, true, but the deaths were also not just quirky, they were sick jokes. And
Oh,
as he
okay.
reveals this, Oberon Sexton takes off his mask to reveal the Joker.
Oh, our good old table wine.
Elsewhere, Dr. Hurt has finally returned to Gotham and has decided it is time for his next move. So now we finally have
Okay.
the return of Dr. Hurt into Gotham. And this is where it
Right.
brings us to Batman and Robin Must Die, which is not the last story arc, but it's the penultimate one. And then we're going to take a break from this series to catch you up on the return of Bruce Wayne. So that way we have a full
Sure.
understanding of how this all actually makes sense.
Okay.
So the Joker reveals that after Dick took the mantle of Batman, he could tell that it wasn't his Batman and decided to kill Oberon Sexton to take his place and gain the new Batman's trust. He warns him that if he isn't as good as the old Batman, then everyone will die. Later,
Okay.
Gordon reveals to Batman that nearly every dealer or supplier of narcotics in Gotham has left. Batman believes that Professor Pig's viral addiction was released in the first story arc. That wasn't the real plan. He believes that the antidote that was spread after would help to trigger the infection when exposed to something like the common cold. Meanwhile, Damian, Robin, goes to interrogate the Joker while beating him with a crowbar, which is very similar to how Jason Todd was beaten with a crowbar by the Joker.
Yeah.
And as Batman learns of this, he rushes to stop him, but is stopped by an army of Dolatrons. Professor Pig and Dr. Hurt have finally made their move. Gotham
Right.
City has been turned into a city of addicts who are turning the city into chaos. So they've spread this disease that just makes you addicted to a specific drug. And
Right.
they've released all of these people who like cannot handle their cravings onto the streets, and it's just causing chaos.
Yeah.
Hurt, now in possession of the box from the tunnels under Wayne Manor, the one with the bat symbol on it,
Yes.
reveals that he can't open it without destroying the contents. When Batman finally gets Robin's communication device working, he learns that the Joker infected Robin with his Joker serum and that his biggest joke is about to be played. Batman and Robin working for him to take down Dr. Hurt. So
Okay.
Batman goes after Professor Pig and Joker sends Robin out after Dr. Hurt. At the same time, Dr. Hurt calls the media to Wayne Manor and says that he is Thomas Wayne, father of Bruce Wayne, and has returned to take his home back and save the city from the outbreak.
And that's Dr. Hurt saying that.
Yeah. So Dr. Hurt
So
calls
we're
a
gonna
big.
give Thomas Wayne a point because maybe he's just honest. So we'll do that. And we're also gonna give a point to the shitty shrink. Perhaps he just didn't do enough self-care and now he should take it on a new identity. Okay.
So Batman and Robin
Give
are
him
are
that.
taken down by the hordes of criminals and taken to Hurt at the manor. Um, Hurt then removes Dick's mask and shoots him in the back of the head.
Oh,
So, yeah. So Dick is taken out.
okay. I'm gonna give a point to the devil. That's just brutal. Okay. I'm putting it on the notes that Dick is dead. And if it changes later, it changes later. Right now, he's Dunyans. Cool.
So Dr.
Rip.
Hurt then reveals that he shot Dick in the back of the head with a pellet and that it won't penetrate his skull, but it will cause him to develop brain damage if he isn't treated soon. In exchange for saving him,
I shouldn't have written dead in pen. God damn it.
I was going to stop you, but I thought it would be really funny because I saw it was the next sentence that I was going to tell you.
Ah, son of a bitch. It's fine.
In exchange for saving him, he tells Damien that he must give up his soul. He's like, I will save Dick's life if you give me your soul. And Damien exclaims that Hurt isn't the devil, but he knows who he is. Hurt then details how Thomas and Martha took him in and showed him kindness many years ago, and he hated them for it. Just then, a whistle comes from the darkness, and the small wooden box opens to reveal a batarang and a note that simply says, "Gotcha." Dick tells Hurt that he doesn't make plans, but he knows someone who does. Devil, meet Bat God. Hurt turns around to find Bruce Wayne waiting in the dark.
Oh, okay. So, I'm gonna give a point to the devil. Because why not? Because I did say devil, meet Bat God. And then just some guy. Because it's just starting to feel like sometimes he's just some guy. And so some guy is the fourth option here. He is now on the board.
So now we're going to take a break from the Batman and Robin comic to fill you in on everything that was happening in its sister comic book, The Return of Bruce Wayne, which was being published at the exact same time. So it has a very different story, but it's filling you in on all the details between things.
Right? Like how he got out of the box.
Well, yeah, how everything, where the box comes from, why it's important, why Bruce is not dead, how he got back. It's all here.
Okay.
So I won't be covering these issues in as much detail as I have with the previous series because they mostly are standalone stories with a few plot elements that hold them together until the very end. And even with the previous series, I was speed running through everything that happened just so that you had the basics of like what actually was covered, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the Paleolithic era, way back when, Bruce finds himself without a memory. He stumbles onto a group of cave people who don't fully trust him. They are then attacked by another clan, and Bruce is taken before their leader, Vandal Savage, an immortal villain who sometimes fights the Justice League in the present. But this is back when Vandal Savage was just a regular old caveman who can't die. This is early in his life, and he's a tribal leader who recently killed a giant man-sized bat before attacking the nearby tribe.
A man bat.
Bruce is freed from his confines by a younger member of the group he was with and takes the discarded corpse of the giant bat and wears it as a costume. He fights off the tribe and defeats Savage, who is shunned by his former group for losing. The tribe that Bruce saved decided to dedicate themselves to living with the bats and become the Bat Tribe of prehistoric Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce then disappears, and as he does, Booster Gold, Green Lantern, Rip Hunter, and Superman appear in the sky, realizing that they were too late to find Bruce. They reveal that they have to find him because if he makes it back to the present day, everyone will die. Bruce then awakens in a Puritan village and is attacked by a giant tentacled monster.
Wait, how did he get there so fast?
This is one of the best parts of the series. So
I just love that it's like, again, it's the same thing as the like, oh God, people can handle dying and come back to life, but like no one can handle Bruce Wayne. And then it's just like, God forbid Bruce Wayne makes it through all of time because he will end the world. And it's like, he's just a rich man. That's all this is.
So the best part of this, if you're tracking like what's going on, right? So Batman's abducted by Darkseid. And if you're reading these as they're coming out, this is before they have revealed that it was a clone. That was the body that they found. So you have the weird body in the present. You at the very end of Final Crisis, you see Batman in a cave painting on the walls. And then you pick up the first issue of The Return of Bruce Wayne, and it's an amnesiac Bruce Wayne in the Paleolithic era fighting with a giant bat costume that like from like a corpse of a dead bat and just disappears at the end. Like he's just there. He doesn't
He
do a
just goes
thing.
away.
He just disappears at the end of the issue. And then Superman and all these other time travelers, they show up and they're like, we got to catch him. And then he wakes up in a Puritan village with fighting a giant tentacled monster.
Which
It's
makes
fucking great.
no sense.
It's so good.
How did he travel centuries ahead?
So Bruce slays the creature. He just chops the fuck out of its tentacles. And
yeah, because of course.
Because he's fucking Batman. That's what he can do.
It's at this point he's just Bruce God. Like because he doesn't even remember that he's Batman. He's just Bruce God with a bat costume.
He is then taken in by a young woman and nursed back to health. So like some woman is like, fuck it, you defeated this weird creature.
Sounds like he's not the one who needs nursing. Sounds like it's the tentacle monster that needs nursing. I feel like Bruce is fine.
He seems to be doing okay.
Yeah. He doesn't need health insurance. Leave him be.
He spends his time living as Mordecai Wayne, still unsure of who he is, but holding on to his skills as Batman. So he just takes on a different name. Meanwhile, at Vanishing Point, a headquarters at the end of time, Booster Gold, Rip Hunter, Green Lantern, and Superman consult the Archivist, who explains that time is like a tangled loom, continually branching off and intersecting. There are, according to the Archivist, only minutes left in the timeline where they are, and the Archivist reveals himself to be Bruce Wayne, who then steals their time machine.
But he was...
They're talking to this weird fucking robot shadow creature called the Archivist at the fucking end of time, and then he's like, haha, I'm Bruce Wayne, and fucks off with their time machine.
Is he still a robot?
Kind of. We'll get into it. Superman. I
love that at first I was just like, man, Sandman's kind of funky, but then I was just easily okay with this. This I'm just so not okay.
Superman tells him.
I'm so mad.
Superman tells him that when Darkseid sent Batman back in time, he erased Bruce's memories but turned him into a doomsday weapon, knowing that Batman's survival instincts would lead him back to the 21st century, at which point Darkseid's trap will be triggered. So Darkseid's major plan is like, you can't fuck with Bruce Wayne. I'm just going to make him the bad guy. So,
this is wild.
I love it. So
this is so insane.
Back in the past, the amnesiac Bruce Wayne is taken to the caves where he was found and is attacked again by the tentacled creature. He fights it off, but is flung forward in time. His partner during this era is then captured by a witch hunter who decides that all of the weird happenings around the town are her fault. She's a witch, and he sentences her to be hanged. Before she says she curses his family and reveals that the witch hunter is Nathaniel Wayne, one of Bruce's ancestors. So she's like, I put a curse on you and your family, not the Batman.
Yeah, I wonder if this is like before or after the devil worshipping Thomas Wayne.
This is before.
Before, yeah. Okay.
There is
that's a fun bit of irony in the family history.
There is like a timeline here, and it's confusing, but it's pretty close in time, but this is way before. Sure. In terms of like the amount of years covered by this comic book, this is much closer to it.
Cool.
So when Bruce finally awakens from this time traveling expedition he's on Blackbeard's pirate ship.
Okay. Sure.
Blackbeard reveals that he is after the treasure of the Bat People of Gotham. And when they finally reach the caves, the Bat People attack, but allow Bruce to venture further in. As he makes his way through, he sees the cape and cowl that he wore and remembers his past. They're all hung up on the caves in the
like they were in the other issue.
Right. So later, he tells a pirate that he met on this adventure his entire story, because he starts to remember everything. And he's like, I have to tell you everything before I forget it again. And while he's doing that, he gives him instructions on what to do moving forward.
Right.
Bruce then disappears. The pirate keeps the story in his diary and visits the Waynes many years later. They take his diary and an object that they were told to keep secret, and they put it in a small box with a bat symbol on it.
Right.
So that's where we get that box.
The bat people.
That's where we get the box from the previous story. This is where it starts.
Yeah.
Right? So Bruce then reappears as a masked cowboy who helps a family after they were attacked by hired guns. Bruce has again forgotten who he is, but he uses his skills to help all of those in need. The family that he helped had a prized possession stolen, the wooden box of the Waynes. The guns were hired by none other than Vandal Savage, who is trying to desperately get the box to open and has even kidnapped the granddaughter of the family. Savage hires another man, a young Thomas Wayne, the black sheep of the Wayne family.
Because he's a devil worshiper.
As Bruce attacks their headquarters, Savage and Wayne flee but are stopped near a bridge where Alan Wayne is about to commit suicide. The young woman that Savage kidnapped hands the box over to Bruce when she recognizes him as the man from the legends, and he opens the box to see the contents inside. He hands the woman a pearl necklace that her grandmother wore before she died from her wounds. This pearl necklace, by the way, is one of the things that will be handed down throughout the family and will be Martha's pearl necklace when she's killed.
Right. Okay. I had a feeling.
Yeah. It's not explicitly stated, but it's also not crazy subtle.
Yeah. Heavily implied.
Just as he's handing the necklace off, they are attacked by Thomas Wayne, who demands his hired gun shoot Bruce. Bruce is hit by the bullets, but he disappears as he's shot. The young woman and Alan Wayne then comfort each other and get married. They rebuild Wayne Manor following specific instructions that the young woman had to honor the Batman that saved their lives.
Okay.
So this is how we get a big bat signal throughout time, you know.
Great grandson.
Right.
Told her what to do. Right. Cool. Okay.
So Bruce reappears a few decades before the present and is hit by a truck. He wakes up in the hospital, just barely surviving being shot and ran over back to fucking back.
But he's fine. Because apparently no one can put this man down.
He is approached by a young woman who wants to employ him as a detective to investigate the death of her dear friend, Martha Wayne. Realizing something is off about hiring a random person to be a detective, Bruce decides to go along with it in order to figure out what the game actually is. He meets with Martha's parents and learns that there have been rumors about Thomas Wayne's infidelity. He doesn't believe he is being told the whole truth, however, and continues his investigation. He is then given a bat costume to wear, the same one that Thomas wore to a party just a couple of years prior. He finds his employer at a graveyard near Wayne Manor and realizes he is being set up by the Black Glove. They tie him to a tomb and tell him that they will sacrifice him to their bat god for eternal youth. It's revealed that his investigation and the pictures of this event will be used to sully the name of the Waynes and tie them to Satanism as a way of ruining the names of good people. The leader of the group is none other than Dr. Hurt, who plans to use this situation as a means of taking over as Dr. Thomas Wayne and stealing his life.
Okay. So I'll give that a half point for the Wayne. But then I'm also going to give a point for some guy. Because he clearly wasn't originally Thomas Wayne.
So
is what I'm thinking right now, but we'll get into that later. Don't worry about these numbers. I'm just telling you, I'm marking them down.
They light Bruce on fire. But
he's probably fine.
Bruce realizes that one of the men in attendance is a scientist who had just created a small time traveling device. Now, this is a supervillain from like crazy early on in the comics. That is like rarely ever used, but it's just like a cute little nod to that particular character. So
love it.
Batman steals that tiny little time traveling device And as he does, the Bat God arrives and possesses Bruce right at the moment he escapes through time. So in the present day, the Batman from the end of time, now remember the archivist who like stole
Yes. Robot
right.
Batman.
He arrives in present day as the Justice League security system shuts down the facility.
Okay.
The Bruce who was lit on fire arrives at Vanishing Point, and they realize that he has been possessed by what they call the hyper adapter, and they remove it from his body to put it into quarantine. Now, the creatures that are there, those are like robots. Those are the other archivists. And they remove the hyper adapter from his body. The hyper adapter is the same tentacled creature that Bruce fought before, and it's revealed to be an agent of Darkseid. Bruce finally regains all of his memories, but tells the archivists to take them away again and give him a disguise. Additionally, he tells them to construct a time machine. One of the archivists fuses with Bruce's body, but is infected with the hyperadapter as well. So this is where you get the robot Bruce Wayne Batman that escaped through time. From here, the scene plays out just the same as before. The archivist steals the time machine and escapes through time. Superman and his search party arrive at Vanishing Point. Batman steals their time machine, blah, 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 blah. The time machine that Bruce asked the archivists to make is finally finished just as he's leaving. And just minutes before, or just seconds, I guess, before time ends, which allows Superman's team to follow him.
Oh, okay.
We actually did set up like a plan for them to escape as well. But he's doing some crazy shit to try to get out of whatever's happening to him.
Right.
In the present day, Batman fights off the Justice League and asks Wonder Woman to use her lasso of truth on him. He explains that he knew of Darkseid's plan to use the Omega Sanction to send him slowly forward through time. This is why he would just randomly like
just pick a random period and be at it.
Blip out and show up somewhere else. His solution was to simply forget his existence so that the hyperadapter couldn't come after him, and he had tricked him into coming to the present. However, now that he remembers who he is, he asks her for help. But Diana realizes there's something more to his plan. As Superman and his team arrive, the archivist reveal that separating the hyperadapter and Bruce would cause his death. Bruce rips the hyperadapter from his body and throws it into the time machine. The hyperadapter begins to morph after being fused with Bruce, and it gets sent backwards in time. It becomes a giant bat, and as it floats backward in time, it encounters Dick in the Batcave, as well as appearing at several points throughout history before finally arriving in the Paleolithic era as the giant bat that Vandal Savage kills.
Okay.
So,
wow.
You following along here?
Yeah. My brain feels like it's on fire, but it understands what's happening.
So do you see why like I took 3 episodes to really build out like the things that were happening? We talked a lot about like building up Dr. Hurt's main attack, and now we're actually talking about who Dr. Hurt is and why they're very separate stories.
Yeah. This is insane.
So in the present...
And he just had to travel through literally all of time to get back to finish off Dr. Hurt.
Yes.
It's insane.
In the present, Bruce is still dying and has Omega radiation pulsing throughout his body. They allow him to die so that the radiation leaves his body, and they then begin to revive him. So that was mainly Darkseid's plan. Was as he's traveling through time, he's building up all this radiation and it's just going to just blow everyone up. But if he is to die, it dissipates and then they can revive him.
Right.
It doesn't quite work. Like they're not able to actually like wake him back up until Red Robin informs him that Gotham is in trouble. Bruce realizes that...
Oh my God.
part of the hyperadapter infected a human host centuries in the past. And everything becomes clear. Then Bruce stands, grabs his costume, and informs them that Gotham's disease has spread beyond its borders and that once again, Batman is needed. And that's the end of the return of Bruce Wayne. That's how that ends. And we go back into Batman and Robin.
And now it's like Devil Meet Batgirl.
Right.
Cool. Okay. Let's get back to it.
So we start with a flashback. Because this can't be just straightforward. In the year 1765. So a real big flashback.
Too far back. Okay.
A young Thomas Wayne, the Satan worshiper,
the devil worshiper,
and a group of people. One of them also just as it's not noted here, but I know the issues that they're directly referencing, and it's made clear in those issues because this is also a story that Grant Morrison is using for his own purposes. Like, hey, this thing that happened in a previous comic book, we're going to make it happen in this, but we're going to give you fuller context to it. So one of the cultists in this is Thomas Jefferson. It says
lovely.
Has nothing to do with the story, but it's in this other one. So they all are in this like basically a basement trying to summon a demon. They instead summon the hyper adapter in the form of a giant bat. All of the participants flee except for Thomas Wayne, who readily accepts bonding with the creature. This creates Dr. Hurt. So this is
okay.
So what you have is satanic Thomas Wayne, not Bruce's dad Thomas Wayne, but a Thomas Wayne.
A Thomas Wayne.
Fusing with what is essentially a bat devil to create a kind of a new person, a very long-lived person who eventually takes the name Dr. Hurt.
Okay. We're adding tallies. And okay. Now this isn't to be confused with the bat that they were sending back for time.
This is part of it. So it's like they sent that.
So it is the bat that they sent back through time. It's not just. So it's not really a.
They confused.
Wasn't that bat a machine?
Yes, but it's an idea. So Grant Morrison is insane. And
because if it's a machine, then it's not a demon per se. It's like a Terminator. And a Terminator is not like a demon or a devil. It's a sci-fi, it's not a supernatural. So that would not make it have devil points. It would make it have robot points. So now robots are a factor to be considered. Okay, so we will give point to robot. Fuck it, maybe a couple points to robot because of its relevance. And like, yeah, sure, they could be like, oh, well, they didn't know the technology of the time because they didn't know bat robots could be a thing in the 1700s. Because Thomas Jefferson wasn't smart enough for that. But it's still a robot.
It's so the way Darkseid explains it at one point is that like they've weaponized ideas, and Grant Morrison kind of does this weird thing where abstract thoughts can have physical forms, and I guess this is one of those where they've created a robot kind of thing. That's why it's able to just transform into a giant bat. Like it just becomes that. Okay. You know what I mean? So it isn't a demon, but it's misconstrued as a demon. And then many years later, I didn't write this in here.
It also just sounds like an ayahuascan retreat.
Kind of.
Because those are visual, like a lot of people probably see visuals of concepts there. Yeah. So mushroom?
Point.
Correct.
It's many years later, they will reveal that there actually is a bat devil named Barbados. And It's separate from this thing.
Okay.
I didn't fully read that. It's confusing, so I just left it out of here, but just for full context, there is a demon involved, just not in this particular story.
Okay. Fascinating.
So in the present day, Bruce confronts Dr. Hurt, but first he has to fight off all of his minions. Dick tells him that they sealed off all of the exits except for the Batcave, and that's where Hurt would have to run to. Bruce tells Damien to get Dick to a hospital, and Damien agrees, but asks Bruce to look out for Alfred. So during all of this time, while Damien's robbining about, Alfred
Sure.
has been really taking care of him. So Damien has a lot of affection for Alfred, and
As everybody should.
right.
Because Alfred takes care of everybody.
And as Bruce enters the cave, he tries to find Alfred, but it is kind of difficult to do because he finds a locked room with seemingly no exit. Hurt reminds him how awful isolation can be, just like the isolation experiment Bruce went through years ago. He then says,
Okay.
Batman R.I.P., rot in purgatory. When Hurt lets his guard down, Bruce escapes, revealing it's his own house and he knows all of the secrets. Like, why try to trap Batman in his own fucking place?
In his own house. That's the dumbest thing to do.
He tells Hurt he knows all about his father trying to treat him years earlier, but nothing could help. Hurt continues to claim that he is Bruce's father and that he built all of this as the case that he could never solve, and taunts Batman with the knowledge that it will never end unless he kills him. It's then revealed that Alfred is in a tube and is about to drown. So like he's under like this like lake in a tube, and
He's in like a fear factor
basically
situation.
And he's gonna drown. So Batman allows Hurt to escape so that he can save Alfred, because that's clearly the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And as Hurt makes his way out of the Batcave, he follows a long trail of dominoes that are placed along the floor,
Okay.
only to find the Joker waiting for him in the graveyard. He takes Hurt and throws him into a recently dug grave, topping the coffin off with a domino pattern, and then buries him alive. Joker details that while Batman was gone, he realized that he and the new Batman weren't a good match, and he decided he would try his hand at taking down Dr. Hurt instead. This also kind of goes back to, like, they owed him for his wager placed during Batman R.I.P., and he told them he was going to collect.
Yeah.
So as the Joker tries to leave the graveyard, Bruce apprehends him, showing the crazed clown that the original Batman has returned. In the aftermath, it is revealed to the press that all of the accusations made against the Wayne family are false. The conspiracy against Bruce by the Black Glove, all of that is made public, so that they're like, oh, okay, that guy that said he was Thomas Wayne, that's not Thomas Wayne. All of this bullshit about, like, Thomas possibly murdering Martha, that's all fake.
Yeah.
In a public meeting for the press, Bruce announces that he has always given money and been the money behind Batman, and that the recent events have shown him that the war on crime must go global. He announces that Wayne Enterprises would now be funding a new venture, Batman Incorporated.
Oh, and this goes into the comic series about all of the international Batmans.
Right.
And all of that cool stuff. Okay, cool.
So Bruce and his company would now help oversee many different Batmen in different countries to help fight crime. And
very fun.
That is where this series ends. So you now have, like, it's convoluted as shit, but you have a definitive, this is how Dr. Hurt came to be, why he hates the Waynes, why he hates Batman, all, like, how it connects together, but it is batshit.
Yeah, so he's technically a descendant, but because he was the devil worshipping descendant who had the run-in with the past Batman in the West, and he favored Alan more than him, that's why he doesn't like them.
There's that. There's the hyper adapter basically, like,
makes you crazy.
Yeah, and warping him to kind of always hate Batman. And because he's, like, obsessed with the devil, he sort of takes on, like, I want to corrupt souls. Then there's he mentions he was taken in by the Wayne family at one point and they treated him and he was just like disgusted with how good they were. So he wants to like end them.
Right.
uh so there's
Okay.
like a just a and his main goal at that time was he was going to take over for he was going to be Thomas Wayne, Bruce's dad. He was going to take over for him and replace
Yeah,
him.
he just decided that.
But because of like a bunch of shit that happened, he wasn't able to actually do that. So there's like many different reasons why he's really pissed off at Batman.
Yeah.
uh
Kind of his own fault, though.
Almost all of it is. I
Yeah.
loved it. So and this was the last
It's
time
fun.
that Dr. Hurt was really ever used in comics outside of a brief appearance in a crossover event where he
And the
seemingly
only way
dies.
they technically killed him was they just buried him alive.
Right. This
Okay.
crossover involved a massive shift in different timelines and realities all converging together. So there's plenty of room for that character to actually be revisited later on. Uh,
Oh, absolutely. They could go back to, like, the 1700s
I, they could do
again.
so many different things to bring him back. Uh,
Yeah, they could.
for me, though, I only hope that he's used in a story where he creates the same level of insane mystery and intricate planning as he did in these comics. Like the fact that we started in 2007 and ended in 2011, and we basically worked backwards from here's a fully fledged, like, evil genius that we know nothing about. And he is so, like, intricately woven into Batman's history that you
Yeah.
don't find out for 4 years is crazy to me.
Yeah, he's like anything and everything, but also nothing. It's kind of wild.
And he was a character that was created decades before Grant Morrison ever actually took over. Like, he was just an unnamed scientist in, like, I think it was the 50s or 60s. And
Yeah, because he was, like, the psychiatrist one
yeah, and then
that did the thing.
just dusted off and was like, Here's this whole new take on him."
Yeah.
That
That's pretty wild.
it's one of my favorite. This is why Dr. Hurt is one of my favorite Batman villains. It's just a bonkers story. And like, I mean, you saw, like, as you're reading through this, I mean, I'm telling you the story, but I can tell you it's the exact same experience as you're reading the comics.
Yeah.
It is wild and you never feel like you're holding on to any real ground. Suddenly you're at the end of time and there's like a fucking robot Batman who's attacking Superman, and you have to
I love it.
fight gods, and it's wild. I don't understand how anyone could have like even conceived of
I don't
this.
know how someone could I don't know how someone could have thought of that, and I love that they've just made Batman this mega important dude
It's so good.
that I just think is so funny.
And it's
Um,
also fun because they
yeah.
build bats as like a huge historical thing for Gotham. So it's like
Yeah, they really do. Like, it's not just a Batman
yeah,
thing, it's just an all-around thing.
yeah.
That in this one specific geographical location that wasn't even a town for a long time has always just been bats.
Bat City. Um,
I love that.
so that kind of that
Um,
wraps up our 3-episode arc on Doctor Hurt. Do you have any more
yeah,
questions
I
or
have my point
yeah?
system finished.
Okay.
And we're gonna go from least likely to most
All right.
likely.
Where did we end up?
The the bottom 2 are the easiest.
Mhm.
And then it ends up being like 4 things. So he is not just some guy. We had 2 points for some random guy. Because there were a couple moments where that just made the most sense. Because if you're just gonna walk around and be like, "I'm Thomas Wayne," it's like, shut up. No, you're not. Sit down. That makes no sense. And then I wrote Shrimp Shrink as like a shitty psychiatrist.
Gotcha.
He got 4 points, but we determined that's a
Mm,
no. I feel like this man had more mental issues than knew how to handle other people's, even for good or for bad.
mm.
I feel like he just wasn't wasn't doing the best work in that department. seems to have a lot of holes in his plans in that direction.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we have. Oh, for one point, though it is pretty up there in mushrooms, um, that is one of the options that we do have, just because that would be the only explanation to the past Thomas Wayne seeing crazy bat,
Mhm.
or man bat. And I love that man bat has been a part of every single episode that we've done for Doctor Who. It's great. And then with what do we have here? With 5.5 points, we have a Thomas Wayne. With 6 points, we have robot. And then with 6.5 points, we have devil. So that is about an average of a robot Thomas devil that we have. And that was the conclusion that I came up with.
Pretty
Which
accurate.
seems like it's the correct answer anyway, even though I picked arbitrary points that had very little to do with the actual reasoning.
Well, and that was one of my favorite things about, like, if you go back and you read it, there are several different, like, things that are brought up. They say, oh, maybe he is the devil. Maybe he is Thomas Wayne. Maybe he is. They're all technically true. All the things he claims are kind of
Because
true.
he is a Thomas Wayne. Kind of.
It's just the way you get there is not what you expect.
No. No one could ever expect that.
Yeah.
That's like the fun version of like bad mystery writing, you know?
Yes.
Where it's like, yeah.
I was just going to say this, like, this is portrayed as a mystery, but there's no way that you can solve it. It's just a story that you don't have all the context to until the end.
Like, I just recently read a book that was actually bad mystery writing. And it infuriated me because of just how, like, horribly the ending was put together. It was just like, screw you. Like, nobody would have thought of this. You picked the most irrelevant character to make the bad guy. Whatever. But this one was just, it was so goofy, you couldn't be mad at it. And that's why I like it.
I think
it's so crazy.
There is a lost art in it's very alive and well in a lot of, like, stage plays, in comic books, in very campy stuff.
It's very Clue, and that's why I think I like it.
But, like, in other, like, you would not get a DC cinematic movie that has all of these elements.
Oh God, no.
People would be like, this is bullshit. But it's so much fun. And it
is so fun.
I don't understand people who cannot just, at least, like, it may not be your thing. It may not be the thing that you personally very much enjoy, but you have to recognize how it's enjoyable to other people.
It would have to be done, like, do you know what Danger 5 is?
Wait, this sounds really familiar.
So, Danger 5 was this, like, I don't know if they made anything more than, like, 2 seasons.
Wait, is this the one where it's like an old show, but it's not?
Yeah,
and they had, like, they would be, like, reading,
and they're all like, they're agents,
yes,
and they're like it's always like their mission is to kill Hitler.
Yeah, and there's like there's a famous meme from it where one of them's reading a magazine that says, like, Sensible Chuckles. Yeah. Oh my God. I watched a few episodes of this. It was so funny.
I watched the whole thing. It's so good. It would like, if you were gonna adapt this comic series as a thing, it would have to be done.
Oh yeah,
like Danger 5.
God, that would be so good.
And it would, like, that I would watch because it would be so stupid.
See, and this is your love of,
so
like,
good.
Your love of Joel Schumacher. I can see where that, like,
yeah, like, this fits in so well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that mildly, like, gothic, but also, like, just goofy. I love it. Big fan.
So
that was fun. That was a fun jaunt.
Any other comments, questions, concerns before we wrap everything up?
My only criticism is that I just wish there was, like, a little more Man-Bat, but, like, that's always gonna be my criticism with Batman. Um, I think it would've been fun if in one of his, like, past adventures, he brought back, like, the crazy space costume. I
Oh,
thought that would've been fun.
actually, I didn't mention it because I was trying to fly through the story. When we're done here, definitely go back and look up the return of Bruce Wayne, because every issue features a different Batman costume reflecting the
Oh, that's
era that
cool.
he's in.
Oh, I'm a fan of that. Okay.
So
I'm looking it up
there's the
now,
caveman
but
Batman,
keep doing
there's
your thing.
the Puritan Batman, the Blackbeard era Batman, the Wild West Batman, the like
I love it.
20s Batman, and then the last one is modern day
Oh, yeah. This is great. I
Batman.
love Pirate Batman.
Oh yeah,
He's really fun. I like his beard.
so good.
I like Western Batman too. I don't know which one this is. Oh, that's probably Cave Batman. That one's funky. Puritan Batman is probably gonna be my least favorite.
Yeah, it's just kind of whatever.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah, that's valid. These are all very cool though. I am a fan.
And if you actually
Oh, and Puritan Batman's funny. I like his hat.
there's if you
This is
if you
cool.
actually read the comics too, there are like small cameos of characters throughout DC history. So there's like Jonah Hex shows up.
Okay. In the Western one,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. Jonah Hex is a
Yeah.
main part of that. So I just didn't mention him by name because they didn't really matter. But
That's okay.
but if you read them, there are like small cameos of previous DC like character histories. They're so much fun, and it's weird. And you would have to think like Vandal Savage has to at some point be like, why do people keep dressing up like a fucking bat?
Yeah.
Because he's run into Batman several times throughout his life now.
So many times. Prehistoric Batman is pretty cool.
Yeah. My
I like the homage to, like, wearing the bear skin,
oh yeah.
but it's a big bat.
So you can find more information, including all of the sources for today's episode, which there aren't really many. It's just going to be recommended reading at comicallypedantic.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram by searching at PedanticCast and at Derek L. Chase on both platforms. New episodes usually come out on Sundays on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and at comicallypedantic.com. If you have any comments or questions, you can send them in text or audio recording to comicallypedantic@gmail.com. Please indicate if you'd like your name or question read on the air. We will be back with another deep dive into the history of a particular comic book story. We are actually going to be taking a hiatus again so that we can do a good job, but we have a very fun, long, deep dive planned for you guys.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually have to carry weight on this podcast now.
But when we come back, I
That's
promise
okay though. I'm excited.
we'll be back on Sundays next year. And until then, you can find more exciting adventures at your local comic shop.